Okay, welcome everybody. And my name is Rafai Hosseini, and I'm welcoming you to this webinar. And I'm really excited, to be here today to be talking to you, Shelter. And I'm going to be having with me Andrew Okoli and Adegbenga Alamu. And we're going to be having this great webinar session where we'll tell you, one, about the offerings of Q Shelter, that is going to help to revolutionize the real estate space. And secondly, also about something very interesting happening in Nigeria. I think it was just only last year that PENCOM did reiterate the fact that you can take 25% of your RSA balance to be able to fund, home ownership in Nigeria. And that really revolutionized the sector. And just a little dial back for a lot of people that are just joining us. This is to help you get knowledge and clarity, as regards this provision. And just to dial back as regards, contribution pension scheme, it pretty much started around the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo, and it did help revolutionize, the pension sector. Prior to this time, we all know how pension used to be, the old model. But since we started the contributory pension scheme where you contribute a certain amount, it goes into a pool, and at the end of your working year, you get to, get from this pool and all of that. The dynamics has really changed. But having one step further is the capacity to be able to take out of this money to do something for yourself while you're still in your working years, to be able to assure your future. And Q Shelter is about the only company that is in the vanguard of this, helping you to get clarity and information. So once again, I'd like to welcome all of you here. And apart from that, I would also tell you, especially those joining us from the diaspora, that Q Shelter offers facilities like helping you to be able to execute your real estate projects and things like that. And they do with a great deal of accountability. You can check through the app, you can check through the websites, the offering they have. So for this, I'd like to welcome Andrew Okoli. Andrew's on the call. Thank you so much. And Adegbenga Alamu. And we're going to be talking about everything, centered around Q Center, the offering, and what it's going to do to help revolutionize, the sector. And the fact that the opportunities that are immense, from Q Shelter. Real quickly, and I think for those that have not, gotten ahead, you should go on your Play Store and check through, the app. There's a lot they are doing at Q Shelter as regards home ownership, as regards helping people. And they've got a very strong value proposition, that helps a lot of people. Adegbenga Alamu is the Chief Operations Manager, and Andrew Coley is the Chief Commercial Officer of Q Shelter. And there's so much, that they're doing as regards this. And when I saw their propositions and their offering, I decided to jump on this webinar because I know it's going to educate a lot of people and it's going to give you access to a lot of opportunities that you never did know about. So let's just go straight to it. Welcome on board, Andrew, and welcome on board, Benga. I don't know who's going to
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Who's going to go first? But I think Andrew should go first. Let's even have an overview, of the mortgage process from, pre-approval to closing. Just give us an overview of this entire process.
Okay, thank you, Rafai, for this opportunity. And then thank you, listeners, that have come on board so far. The idea of this, the whole idea behind this webinar is to actually educate us, because we found out that there seemed to be like a cultural stigma towards understanding what mortgage is all about. And the general perception is that it is only for the rich. It's not so. Mortgage is actually available for everyone. So the right education, we're very sure that you'll be able to, one is able to appreciate how he or she can access a mortgage so easily. Now, from approval, I'll only give an overview. Mr. Benga will take it up from there later on. In accessing a mortgage, three vital things are important. The property, in terms of documentation, title documents, value, all that with regards to property. Then the contributor himself or the subscriber, in terms of affordability, also able to match income with purchase price. Then the third is basically the regulatory environment. but the regulatory environment allows for free flow of mortgages. Okay, fine, a bit high interest rate that's obtainable. These are not predominantly huge obstacles that cannot be surmounted. So between approval and closing, as the process is identification of the property, accessing yourself to see for eligibility and affordability, then approaching your pensions, your mortgage bank or Q-Shot as it is for advice on how to help you navigate this entire process. That is what it is from beginning to the end. It's just the property, affordability, and then the process. Mr. Benga.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Go on, Rufai.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So
he said part to you.
Thank you. So basically, at Q-Shelter, what we do basically, like Andrea said, is to take you off the bottleneck and the burden you need to go through before you can access a mortgage. So at Q-Shelter, basically, what we do is to ensure that for a home buyer, you go and inspect the property. And number two, when you want to sign your mortgage document, those are the two times that you need to go out. All the other processes are done by Q-Shelter. And the processes are just 5. And they are concluded within a period of 15 working days, working with our lending partners. Number one is that you go to the Q-Shelter application or the app, you register online. When you get to the application, you see properties we've listed there. If your preferred property is not there, you send us a mail at Q-Shelter. You tell us your location, you tell us your budget that you are looking at. Once you give me all those information, we are going to compile those properties in form of a photo album. We are going to send it to your email. Once you pick a property out of them, the next thing is to go ahead to carry out for an inspection at our cost, not your own cost. And after the inspection, you pick the property that you prefer. We conclude the pre-qualification process. Pre-qualification process is that you go online, you register, you attach your necessary documents, your pay slip, your last promotion letter, your work ID, just to be sure that you have a capacity to access the mortgage. After that is done, then we do your pre-qualification. That is, we do your loan pre-qualification. Once your loan pre-qualification is done, then the next thing is to submit your documents to the bank. Presently, we are working to improve and to agree with our lending partners to have an API so that the documents are just sent to them digitally, so that what they need to do in-house, we've done it already, and that's what we are doing presently. After that, we have due diligence. Due diligence is what takes time. Under due diligence, we have title search. You search for the property title at the lands to ensure that it's not encumbered. Number two, you do a search also on the survey to ensure that where the house is placed is properly placed and is correct at the land registry. And after that, we conduct credit search on the person that is taking the mortgage, whether he has a non-performing loan or not. And once those things are ticked, then the last thing we need to do is to get a valuer to value the property for the purpose of the lender. And once that is done, everything's concluded. The next thing is that the lender at their own end, the officer look at all the things, cross-check the checklist, and pass it to approval. Once approval is done, Q-Shelter is informed. We tell our customer and we give him the offer letter. Offer letter accepted, documentation for closing starts. What are the documentation for closing? We have legal firm that we work with. They help to prepare the legal documents. Otherwise, the legal firm, the legal department of the commercial lender, we handle that. And once that is signed between the property owner and the customer, the home buyer, the documents are put together. And once they are put together, the customer, in a matter of days, we have key to his house, and he will commence his mortgage repayment. So basically, those are the process from pre-approval to closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gringa, for that. So let's now talk about the dynamics of putting of your access to the 25% of your RSA to be also for you to be able to get property.
Okay, thank you very much. Like we said earlier at the introductory stage, PENCOM, that is the PENCOM Commission, has approved guidelines for contributor to the pension, to contributor to retirement savings account. And what that allows is that for a typical lender, the minimum contribution, if you want to buy a house, is average of 20%. For the sake of this discussion, if you want to buy a property of 10 million naira, the lender expects you to bring your own equity or down payment of 2 million naira, which is 20%. Now, we understand in Nigeria, the inflation is very high. People are spending more on consumption and savings very low. So you are allowed to draw 25% of the balance in your retirement savings account, provided you are still below 57 years. If you have 3 years to retirement, you may not be able to qualify to draw in line with the guideline from pension. So for the sake of this discussion, let's agree that what you have in your pension account is 10 million naira also. 25% of it is 2.5 million naira. But what the bank has requested you to contribute is 2 million naira, and they are going to provide 8 million naira. The question is this: will the pension company now release 2.5 million naira to you? The answer is no, in line with the pension regulation. They will only release up to a maximum of 2 million naira for you. So that 2 million naira, you are going to add it to the 8 million the bank is going to give you. The 8 million plus the 2 million, making 10 million, will be used by the lender to pay for the property. But for you to access the 25% of RSA, the lender will request from you to get a property offer letter from the developer or from the home seller. Once you get that, the lender is expected to verify that that property exists. And after that is done, the lender is going to ask you to go and get your certified statement from the pension fund administrator that you are using. And after that is done, the lender is going to issue a letter of indemnity to the pension fund administrator that they check your records, they check the property, and everything's okay. Those documents, your offer letter for the mortgage, your, what do you call it, the indemnity letter from the lender will be forwarded to the PFA. The pension fund administrator will process everything and send it to PENCOM. In line with the guideline, PENCOM is expected to revert back to the pension fund administrator within 5 working days. Either they approve the amount we've requested for, they reduce the amount we've requested for, or they decline the amount we've requested for. Once the approval comes from PENCOM, then the pension fund administrator will inform the custodian that has the money for instruction to move the money to the account of the home buyer in the mortgage bank or the mortgage lender. That will be added to the loan to be disbursed, and payment is going to be made for the house. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we got a couple of questions. So what I'm saying is, people that are watching us, if you want to ask questions, just go ahead and put your question in the box, because I'm getting some and I want to take as many questions as possible. We've got a lot of people joining the live, and I'm still promoting across my social media page because it's a very critical conversation. Okay, this one calls itself an anonymous attendee. It says, do you also help with assessing NHF contributions? What's the maximum amount from the NHF contribution? So you've got somebody that says, I'm interested, how do I proceed? That's another one. So this is Timothy Anchor. Probably maybe our friends at the back end will be able to just list Timothy as he wants to proceed. There's also a question here that says, what are the percentage rate ranges offered by the financial institutions Q Shelter partners with? That's another one. And Olufemi Olumide is asking, I was going to ask what's the difference between this and NHF. And lastly, somebody has said, I'm 30 years old. I've been working with my current employer for about 6 years. My net salary is 564. My PSA account is premium pension, but I have no NHF account. How can I proceed? So, I mean, those are some of the questions. I don't know if you were able to get them down, but please, would encourage you, all of those that have joined us in this conversation, to please keep putting your questions in the box. Mr. Andrew, you want to go ahead? Mr. Kohli, you want to say something about
Yes, I'll go ahead. Thank you
Yeah.
for this. Yes. Let me, before I jump into the question, there's something interesting about mortgage, right? In actually taking a mortgage, you have to be intentional about it. It involves a whole lot of sacrifice. It involves discipline. And the beauty of a mortgage, I'm just trying to talk about mortgage from a business point of view, is that you actually save more taking a mortgage than actually building your house yourself. Except you have all the cash outflow laid down from the beginning to construct a house. In terms of real value, in terms of the value of the naira at every point in time, it is always more economical to take a mortgage, because the mortgage allows you to take possession of the house from the beginning and saves you this cost of paying additional house rent. While when you're building, because we do not have the fat pocket to conclude construction based on the budget that we have for completion, you find out that while you are building, say over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're also paying rent. And you're not going to live in that house because you're still building. That's what mortgage brings. Now, with regards to NHF, yes, at Q Shelter, we help to access the NHF. Now, there's something that is interesting about the NHF. Recently, there has been a circular from government, and we're hoping that with this new dispensation, that will become a very normal in the applications for NHF. They have increased the limits for NHF to as much as 50 million naira. If you recall, this program started from 5 million, then increased to 15 million. Now we have a limit of 50 million, but broken down. You have 15 million, 45 million, and 50 million, depending on where you work, your length of service, and your status within your place of work. Yes, at Q Shelter, we can help you facilitate that. Now, with regards to my young man who is 30 years, yes, Q Shelter also encourages you to prepare a savings plan yourself. Now, the whole idea of a savings plan is to create a discipline and also planning for you. If you're intending to buy a 50 million naira house in, say, 2 or 3 years' time, you can begin, if you go on the webpage, do the analysis on it, the eligibility and affordability, you can begin to make it down savings, prepare yourself for it, so that at the end of that period, you'd have saved the required equity in case you do not want to access your energy or what's called your RSA, the grant that you have not contributed up to 5 years. You can begin to save that equity. Then at the end of that period, Q Shelter will map you a house that fits your balance, and the transaction begins from there. So yes, whether you're 30, whether you're 26, so far you are working, you have a right to a house, and you have a right to start thinking how you're going to and planning towards achieving a house. And we can help you do that at Q Shelter. But we're also very careful, because Q Shelter is all about knowledge and advisory. We push you through the process so that your demand or request for a house is not aspirational. I use the word aspirational in the sense that we all want to live in big houses, in posh locations, with nice gardens. Well, that's aspirational. In terms of what we can afford now, can we really afford to live in those kind of houses? The answer is no. So you begin to plan within what you can afford. And Q Shelter will provide you avenues of assets, properties across Nigeria, across your areas of location to fit your specific budget. Now, with regards to the rates for mortgage lending, now you had mentioned here that these rates are usually tied to markets. There was a time the rates are presently between 19% on the average to 23%, depending on the bank or or primary mortgage institutions that you're dealing with. But remember, as I mentioned, these are just the times, because these rates are hinged upon the CBN's monetary policy guideline. So, but if you recall also, some years ago, when the monetary guidelines was between 11.5% and 30.5%, rates were lower than this. So we're confident that as we are open to this new dispensation and with the promises that of a business-friendly environment, we're very confident that these rates will go down. But nonetheless, rates should not be a discouraging factor at all for anybody who wants to start, because your inflation rate on building materials is far more than 18%. The inflation rate on cost of cement is far more than 18%. So it's always better to jump in now. Since it's market driven, the rates will go up and come down. I think I've answered all the questions.
Yeah, very, very well said. And another point I would like to bring across is there taxation on this RSA 25%? Is there taxation on it? And also, we have to state that the rates are constantly floating in Nigeria. They're not fixed rates.
Yeah.
So
the fixed rates.
It is like it can definitely buffer down tomorrow. And the president did give an indication of this, that interest rates must go down. All right. But we all know why interest rates is up, because it's hedged against inflation. But the president gave a directive that interest rates should go down. But let's not also forget that the CBN has a level of independence, and the CBN will make a decision. But if interest rates get better, things are going to get a lot better. So what I said as regards taxation.
Taxation on?
Taxation on the 25% of your RSA balance.
There's nothing like that in the guidelines.
Tax rate.
So there's no taxation. I mean, just to be able to
tax
clarify.
Rate, yes.
Okay.
Tax
so
rate.
it's tax.
But the only clarification on that is that if you access your 25% of your RSA towards a mortgage, right? In the event and the mortgage is truly given, you just cannot access it twice. Meaning that in the event of, say, along the line, there is a job loss, right? You really cannot access that 25% ordinarily under the law that you should access in the event of a job loss. So I just needed to chip that in. But the overall benefit, again, outside the RSA, that's tax free. The creation of a mortgage can also allow the mortgagor to have some tax reliefs.
Okay. What sort of tax reliefs in that regard?
In terms of your income tax, in terms of your property tax, when you have a mortgage, you are able to actually push for some tax reliefs. How
do you process that?
Within the state authorities. Usually, most people are not aware of that. If you have, when you're doing your tax returns at the end of each year, usually February, between January and March of every year, you can provide your evidences of a mortgage as part of your evidences of tax when you're doing your tax returns, and that will be taken into cognizance by the state authorities.
Okay, I mean, we're getting a lot more questions, and I'll be taking a lot of them. So people are asking about the properties on your list. Do they all have C of O? If they do we have properties with C of O that civil servants can afford in Lagos? Let us have the website of Q Shelter where we can have available homes for mortgage. What does it take to do the mortgage? If the 25% down percent is made and the property seller does not respond for over 5 years, what can one do? What is the interest rate? I think we've been able to answer that's over 25%. Somebody's asking, can I enjoy this service in the lorry? Mr. Benga, you want to jump on this?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of coverage, presently, for people that are interested, anywhere you want to buy a property, like I said initially, that if what you desire is not on our web page, you can send us email where you require property. Presently, we have presence in Maiduguri, Kano, Adamawa, Kaduna, Abuja, Ibadan, Lagos, Enugu, Owerri, Port Harcourt presently. But if you have other areas, maybe that we are not yet covered, we go the extra mile to ensure we get the property for you. What we do at Q Shelter basically is just that the day you want to inspect the property and the day you want to sign your documentation for mortgage, those are the two times you should leave the comfort of your home or office to go and do your transaction. Every other thing is done by Q Shelter for you. And like I said, those property we were prepared in the form of a photo album sent to you for you to pick. And once you pick one, then we go ahead, conduct inspection for you at our own cost. Then you ask a question, the property that are listed. Most of us at Q Shelter were experienced bankers, and we know the things that will make a mortgage transaction to fail. So from the outset, we ensure that the title is okay, the survey is okay, there's no issue of litigation on the property that we are considering. So all the things we know that could make closing a transaction to be difficult from the outset, we ensure they are clear before the request is presented to the mortgage lender.
Okay, I think somebody here wants to know about what are even the steps to get the mortgage in the first place. If you want to apply for a mortgage now through you guys, what are the steps to go?
Okay, basically,
as regards documentation.
For a customer, there are two types of mortgage job. We have people that are in formal employment, and we have people that are self-employed. That's the SMEs. So for people that are in formal employment, the things they require is the employer or find of the copy of the document that they buy attached to it, their ID to where actually we need account a salary paid every month. Once those things are available, we do the pre-qualification and we get pre-approval to know whether the applicant has met the underwriting standard of the mortgage lender where we want to pass the mortgage to. Then also for people that are self-employed, apart from what I've mentioned, because they don't have salary, but they have statement of account. So look at their statement of account over the past 3 years. All those things, that things we look at before the application is forwarded to the bank. The reason is that we at our end want to be sure that the request will go in and come out within a total period of 15 days, everything concluded. And that is why we take all those steps. And at Q Shelter, any property that is listed on our website, we have the responsibility to conduct a search on the title document to ensure that it is certified and it is verified. So that anybody buying will know that is going home to sleep and there's no issue. Thank you.
Okay, I would also like to ask as regards people that want to put in for a mortgage. For those that are, working, that you say you check their CAC documents, are their tax
self-employed?
Yeah, self-employed. Self-employed people, are their tax returns also going to be checked?
Yes, tax return will be required for the individual. That's if you are a director of the company. It will require at the closing point, because when you want to do perfection of the title, the government, the land authority will request for your tax clearance certificate.
Okay, so it's at the closing point that
at the closing point, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll still take more questions, and please, you can inundate us with a lot of questions here. Just drop the questions in the box if you still have a lot of questions to ask. And we have sent out the website, so you can also see the websites. Let's talk about another pertinent issue. Range of monies that can be released based on the mortgage after assessing people's cash flow. So take, for instance, if I'm on a monthly salary of 100 or 200,000, can I buy a home of 60 million naira? That's one question. Can I also have access to mortgage for a house without using my pension? You know, this person says I'm a seafarer. My work is based on contract, sometimes 4 months and 2 months off. When off, there is no pay. What is the interest rate on the mortgage? I think we've been able to talk about the interest rate, which is about 19%, but we said it's floating. It could range from 19 to 23%, beg your pardon. All right. So somebody's saying you didn't address issues on non-pensioners, self-owned businesses. Yes, I think you just talked about that. You know, somebody says, yeah, can someone collect 97,000 as salary under federal government to qualify for this? These are some of the questions they're asking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rufai. I think in the course of this deliberation, we are going to send a questionnaire out to the participants so that the questionnaire is just something you fill in about 30 seconds so that people can put the necessary information, and appreciator we get back to them on what they can buy and the opportunities that are available for them.
Okay. So also the question that I talked about, you know, as regards the seafarer, what would you say to that man that he says his income is not fixed? When he's out of work, he's out of work. It's 2 months on, 4 months on, 2 months out.
Okay, thank you very much. For such a person, in mortgage lending, that's what we call co-borrower, and that's what we call co-signer. And the reason why you have co-borrower and co-signer is when you have issue of capacity. So for a co-borrower, for the man, definitely he will have a spouse, a wife that is also in employment. So the law permits that 2 of them can combine their resources together to service the mortgage. That's for co-borrower. Then we have co-signer. Co-signer, if the man has a child that is already working, that is earning income, the son or daughter can volunteer to be a co-signer to also assist in the payment of the mortgage. So those are some of the options that are available when you have issue of income capacity, because repayment must be predictable and it must be consistent.
Okay. On all of this, Mr. Andrew, I'm sure you'd like to, answer some of the questions. I can see some here that you said you'd like to answer. Do you have a minimum net salary that could qualify for any interested person? And do you help purchase bare land? That's another one that is here. Somebody's saying, I work with an international organization. My pension is not remitted to any PFA in Nigeria. Why we do not contribute NHF? How can your company help to access mortgage? Do you have properties in Ibadan? I can answer that yes, because he did mention this in Ibadan. So, Mr. Raj, you'd like to answer some of those questions?
The person who asked about the minimum amount, really, is there a minimum amount? Maybe for the sake of this discussion that we're saying here, I can give you some rough estimates. If you have a net income of maybe 250,000 a month, right? Based on prevailing interest rate, assuming we'll take 25% of an assumed sum of your RSA, you'll be looking at buying a house of maybe between, Mr. Alamu, you can help me out on this figure, maybe between 6 and 10 million naira.
Yes, correct.
That's what he's looking at. So it's for, like I said, Q-Shelter is about information. So within this bandwidth of information you have or that will provide you, you then know if you are able to afford the house you're looking at and what steps that you can then take to improve on the house type you want. He mentioned co-borrowing. So in such instances, you can actually team up with your spouse if both of you have a defined source of revenue, and then you can then increase the house value that you're looking at. That's one. So there's no real minimum, I'll put it that way. It's just in comparison with what is available in the market and what the affordability is. Do we finance land? No, we don't. We only finance land where it is in a defined estate. Let me explain a defined estate. A defined estate is where you have like Nikon Town in Lagos, for those who know Lagos very well, or Sunrise Estate in Abuja. Defined estates where you don't have the Omonile, if I can put it that way, syndrome, where title to land is secure and defined. With that, we can help raise finance towards, we can help facilitate finance towards purchase of such land, or not just any land anywhere. I think I've answered.
So
what other question?
So that those arrangements are only, specified arrangement, because those areas you just talked about, land there.
No, there are also some smaller estates, like I mentioned. And the most important thing is that it's a defined environment with defined titles, with a defined approved scheme, with Lagos State or any state authorities, where any state building authorities, wherever they are, it is on those land that will finance.
Okay. Mr. Gwenga, I'm sure you wanted to jump in on that conversation too.
Yeah, I think somebody from he said work with a international organization that they don't do pension. We can help the person access mortgage at Q Shelter. So you can go to our site. We have phone numbers there, about 8 phone numbers on the site. We are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we are also on LinkedIn. So we are everywhere. You can contact us and we provide the required mortgage education. We do that a lot at Q Shelter. We don't just say, go ahead. We take your hand from inception until the transaction is concluded. And for those people that have been asking of NHF, let me just make some few contributions. Like our moderator said, Mr. Rufai Hosseini, property will not wait for you. So what people normally do is that people will apply for commercial mortgage. And once commercial mortgage is done, we have mortgage banks that we partner with. So the next thing we do is that we pass your application to the mortgage bank if you're a contributor to the National Housing Fund, so that they can help you to process your National Housing Fund mortgage, which is now up to about 50 million. So by the time the approval will come out, that will refinance the commercial mortgage that you have been running. And at that time, value of the property you bought must have appreciated. So at the end of the day, it's gain, 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 win, win, win for you as a mortgagor. So at Q Shelter, we also advise customers on the possibility of refinancing the existing mortgage.
Okay, so let's also push this forward now by also talking about risks. Let's talk about worst case scenarios. What are the worst case scenarios for all of this? Mr. Andrew, you want to talk about, Mr. Cole, you want to talk about that first?
Worst case scenarios. There are two scenarios that are there basically with regards to mortgage, capacity, loss of job, and death. Now, loss of job could also be tied to loss of death, could also be injury, that has stopped you from working within a specific period. Now, we have thought through all that as a mortgage industry. So what lies in is that their insurance put in place, their credit life and mortgage insurance is put in place to mitigate against this. These are the basic risks. Now, the third one is the risk of fire. So in part of the documentation that Gbenga mentioned about, those are the part of the documentation, the closing documentation that you'll be required to do. There'll be a mortgage, a fire and special perils mortgage over the assets, which will be from authorized and defined insurance companies across Nigeria. Then the credit life insurance takes care of job loss for up to a period of 6 months only. Now, the whole idea behind that is that within that 6 months period, that you would have been able to secure something else that will keep the mortgage flowing or keep the mortgage going. I think those are the worst case scenarios. In the event of death, it takes care of itself in the sense that in the event of death, nobody forecloses your property. The insurance company fully pays down on the mortgage, and the beneficiaries of the mortgagor begin to enjoy the assets. So those are, from experiences really, right? We always advise people, especially for fear of loss of job, that if you have such incidences of loss of job, most people shy away. I think the cultural thing, we don't like to discuss our problem. We think when you discuss a problem, people would laugh. No. When you lose your job, if you send a mail to your mortgage lender or to QShot as it is from the beginning, look, I've lost my job. Some arrangements can be made immediately to forestall those default charges that would come and those discomforts that will come within that period. So those are the risks and the mitigants for mortgage.
Okay. It's good you've talked about that. Somebody is asking here, can the market value of the property be used as equity on the mortgage loan?
Person wants to do an equity release. Now, there are two different things, right? It's twofold. Now, if I want to do equity release, meaning I have an existing property, right? And I want to get money out of that existing property, even if it's a mortgage. Oh, yes. The value of it can be used to access funds.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be used to access funds.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that. We'll still take a lot of more questions. But also, while we also have this conversation, I will also like to, pick your brains on the other services, apart from this mortgaging services that QShelter provides, other services and the proposition of QShelter in the market. Mr. Gbenga, would you like to talk me through that? Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr. Gbenga, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So at QShelter, we have basically three sets of customer we deal with. Number one is the developer. Number two is individual owners that want to sell their properties through our platform. And number three is the home buyers. That's the people that want to buy the houses. So for the developers, the service we offer them is that on our platform, just as we're having this discussion, people are making requests. We have people that have been pre-qualified already for houses. So for the developer, we do what we call real estate mapping. That is, you have the people that have been pre-qualified and the type of houses they prefer, so that the issue of speculation is taken away already for the developer. You know what is building are houses that are subscribers already. Then for the individual home owners that have bought properties and they want to sell their properties, probably to buy another one, probably it was an investment property or they require cash, they can list the property on our website. Nobody is going to come and put signboard in the front of the property. So there's confidentiality of transaction at the end of the day. Then for the home buyers, we do a lot of things for them. And at this point, I want to talk about the diaspora people. Diaspora people have suffered a lot of things in the name of buying property locally. So at QShelter, there are three things that we value. Number one, that we offer customer credibility of our transaction. Number two is turnaround time. And number three is helpfulness. We don't drop you on the transaction is concluded. So for the services, other services we offer, they are basically professional services. We have lawyers, legal firms, we have real estate valuer and estate valuers that we work with. So we help you to prepare to conduct search on your property. If you are from diaspora, you want to buy a property, or even you want to buy a property outright in Nigeria, as in Nigeria, we help you to conduct search. After conducting search, we get the survey and do the charting of the property to ensure that it's properly placed, where it should be placed according to the land records. Number 3, we help you conduct inspection of the property. Number 4, we help you to prepare documents that is required to transfer title to you. Number 5, we help you to perfect the document. And number 6, we help you, if it's an investment property, to rent it out, because we have professionals that we work with at Q Shelter. So basically, those are some of the services we offer to our customers, apart from people that want to take mortgages.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We're still going to be taking more questions from a lot of our guests and our audience member. Somebody's talking here about the tenure of the loan. They're saying, what's the tenure of the loan? Somebody also wants to know the address of your office in Abuja. Do you have access development loan from FMBN for public servants? That's what this person happened here. Job losses in the cost of the loan, I think we've talked about that. For an individual on the process of building a house but needs the fund for completion, whose CFO is pending, with also an RSA of over 18 million, how can they benefit in all your states? And this question talks about, I need further clarification. What's the duration for me to pay back? Okay, two people talked about the tenure of the loan. Mr. Andrew?
Well, loan tenure, depending on the funding institution, but usually up to 15 years for every typical mortgage. That 15 years is subject to your age to retirement. So in a nutshell, if you're 45, you have a 15-year spread. If you're 50, you have a 10-year spread. That's for commercial mortgages, as Mr. Gbenga had mentioned. It's only when you're taking a National Housing Fund mortgage that you have up to 30 years, starting assuming that you are 30 years. With regards to a property in Ibadan without clear title or something, I don't know if I got that question right. Can you help me repeat that question?
Okay,
that's the
property.
He wants to use it to build.
So, Mr. Gbenga, you can take it.
I think if I get the question right, Mr. Rufai was saying, the person has a pension, a RSA balance of 18 million. Am I correct? 18 million naira.
Yes.
That means that if he's going for a mortgage, we are going somewhere, it's entitled to 4.5 million naira. But he has a property in Ibadan that is building, and he wants to complete the property. And he mentioned the issue of the title. So there are two issues here. Number one, we have to be sure that the title to the property is okay. How are we going to know? Even if the CFO is not up, as assessment been paid for the CFO. If assessment has been paid for the CFO, then the lender will require the file number, and they will conduct search to know where the file is, so that they know that it's not the issue of that the CFO will not come out. It's just a waiting period for the CFO to come out. Now, he's constructing the property at what level is A. So the first thing is going to require, assuming assessment has been paid for the title document, it's just awaiting the issuance of the title document. A lender can avail him what we call a completion finance. The purpose of completion finance is to enable him complete the property. When the property is now completed, then a mortgage will now be put in place. So during that period, is 4.5 million, he can access it, and the proceeds of the mortgage will now be used to pay down the initial loan of completion finance. So the completion finance is like a bridging loan from the lender. When the property is completed, a proper mortgage that will run 10, 15 years will now come in, pay down the completion finance, and move on. Thank you.
Okay. So,
No, I
uh,
just wanted to mention here, sorry, if I just to jump in on
yeah,
what Benga had mentioned. Now, in as much as you have typical mortgage rates of 15 years, 20 years, as the case may be, but depending on the mortgage lender, you are actually allowed to prepay at any time within the costs of the mortgage. It's important we send that information out so that you don't think the mortgage lender is tying you to a 15-year plan. No. If in the course of meeting your obligations, or your monthly rentals towards a mortgage, and you are able to complete all of that within 5 or 7 years, you can extinguish your mortgage at that time. I just needed to chip that in.
okay. Thank you so much for that. We've covered a lot of questions, at what is it called? Somebody saying the presenter kept on saying that the services that they render are not at our cost. I want to believe that Q Shelter is not set up as an NGO. So how do they make money from the beautiful services they render? Okay. And somebody also wants to know, how does Q Shelter work with realtors? Somebody says, hello, Q Shelter. I joined the webinar and I learned quite a lot. I'm a federal civil servant working with the Ministry of Information under the National Gallery of Art. My net income is 107,000. I'd like to use my NHF to get a property. I have my eyes on some in Abuja, 2-bedroom of 18 million. I'd like you to run me through how I can access the funds and get the property.
Okay, thank you. For the person that is working with Ministry of Information, because of time, he can call the numbers on our website. We will assist him or her, take him or her through the process with one of our mortgage banks that is licensed to provide federal mortgage bank loan through the NHF window. So I don't think that is a big deal. And thank God that she has even seen a property that she wants to buy. So I don't think there's a problem with that at all.
Okay. Also, the question as regards, are you pro bono? Because a lot of people are saying you're wondering all these great services and you're saying at no cost.
Okay, what we charge is just basically administrative fee for the services we are providing. So like I said, we help you to get the property. We do all the due diligence on the property. And at the end of the day, we charge administrative fee because the journey of Quick Shelter is beyond what we are doing presently. At the end of the day, when people see the value we are providing, then Quick Shelter will become an household name, because basically what we do is to ensure that you get the best deal on your mortgage in terms of rate, in terms of closing costs. For instance, you want to do a mortgage and you are being asked to pay a perfection for professional services or 5%, 10%, and look at this somebody that is struggling already. And that's why at Quick Shelter, like we said, we have legal firms that we are working with, and we ensure that what we preach is affordability, affordability, affordability. So we charge administrative fee and we ensure that the customer is not unnecessarily exploited by any professional, because this is what we have done all our life as bankers. Okay.
So the other question that I did ask as regards, how do you guys work with realtors?
With regards to realtors, okay, realtors could be developers, could be house owners, depending on what we term them. Now, with regards to developers, yes, we have our target really for our target property supply segments of Q Shelter are primarily developers and house owners, in the sense that developers have pool of properties that you can easily carry out due diligence upon, and the risk of identifying an owner, it's minimized because you already know who the central person is. Same also with house owners. So that's what we're doing at Q Shelter.
Okay. I think a lot of people are so excited about the Q Shelter brand already that somebody's asking how often do you recruit? but I think that's on the way. But I think if for anything, that's an indication that this webinar has been a success, because it's helped a lot of people, to be able to endear themselves to the QShelter brand. Real quickly, someone is saying, I like QShelter to shed more light on the concept of completion finance, bearing in mind that RSA cannot be used as finance as an already existing mortgage or WIP building.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned that earlier, that for completion finance is like a bridging facility that you use to complete the property. And once the property is completed, if you don't have a running mortgage, you can apply for your mortgage from this through the same financial institution. And at that point, when you apply, the proceeds of the mortgage will be used to pay down that temporary loan. And that one will be over a longer period of time.
Okay, thank you so very much. As we start to wrap things up as regards this session, where we've talked about RSA, we've talked about mortgage, we've talked about documentation, we've talked about, the importance of and why it's beneficial to be able to take mortgage as it hedges you against level of inflation and all of that. Is there like a specific benchmark that a land must be before people can come to QShelter? And how realistic is the market as regards location? And I deliberately asked that because for a place like Lagos, if you have like 18 million in your RSA, to stay on the mainland or to get a property on the mainland can be slightly a difficulty because of the property prices and how much they are on the increase now.
I'll take that. You're very right. Which is why, if you watch from the beginning, we said in acquiring real estate, you actually have to, and taking a mortgage, you have to really look at yourself clearly in terms of what your financial outlay is. That's why I intentionally use the word aspirational. So we try to move away from aspirational real estate desires. Yes, on the mainland, you said if you have an RSA of 18 million and you want to live on the mainland, say Surulere or Ilupeju, or the case may be, you probably need an outlay of between 60 to 100 million there. So in buying such property, you must ensure then that your earning capacity month on month, your RSA could be 80 million, as the case may be, depending on when you start that contribution, right? But you could be earning much more than on a monthly basis or month-on-month basis that could actually take up that opportunity. But because we noticed and we've observed that, right, we're making QShelter go beyond those expensive neighborhoods. There are some very good neighborhoods around here in Okwaja, very good estates that we're partnered with along those axes that are doing houses between 22 and 24 million naira. We also have some very good estates around the Ajah-Lekki corridors that are also offering such, such good values in terms of affordable values, let me put it that way, because in real sense, there's no affordable housing in Lagos. There's really no affordable housing in Lagos, in real sense of it, yes. But again, which is why QShelter is open to all states. We always encourage people that in making real estate investment, it's about yield, not necessarily the value. I could have a house in Ibadan and my yield in terms of net income, stress, and value is much more than someone who has a property in Ilupeju. You begin to look at the numbers. So you're encouraged to buy these properties across Nigeria that you think you can have good values, not necessarily that we must wait for the expensive ones around. I understand what you said about location and value.
Yeah,
it's critical because most of us want to live in certain neighborhoods. And the reality is that these pricings are not encouraging, except we have other means of, other verifiable means of supplementing our income, or we have a household income coming between to make us be able to afford those mortgages.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure if you're also a realtor on this and you want to join the the band of the good work Q Shelter is doing, I think it's also good to reach across them, across all the channels, and have conversations with them, because this is indeed going to revolutionize the property sector. You get. And somebody's just saying here, thank you so much for the response on working with realtors. But let's not say realtors are developers or property owners. Wishing Q Shelter all the best. Q Shelter is for people who has income, from my view. But hey, if you are also, self-employed and the likes, if you have something going on, definitely you can be able to get real estate. And this is the reality, of the market on ground. So we have told you about what Q Shelter stands for, what they do, what the market is like, how you can access your RSA, and how you can use that. And we also give you vital information on mortgage and possibilities across board, and other things, that can help you move and accelerate to the very next level of your life as regards getting a property of your own. Q Shelter also does a lot as regards property management and property sale. If I have a property now and I want Q Shelter to help me manage it, what will it take me?
It's a good one. Now, within Q Shelter, which is why Mr. Bingham mentioned, is all-encompassing. And everybody that's come on Q Shelter in terms of our partners are professionals in their rights. So we have enlisted and entered discussions with professional estate surveying firms. So like Q Shelter is an aggregator of all these services. So where we finance a property for you, you have a property and you want us to manage it and then return rental income. So yes, one of those firms will be offered to you, and then you make your pick, and then the formal handshake will be done between us, you, and the firm, and you can go to sleep. And all the remittances and management is handled by the firm, but through supervision of Q Shelter.
Mr. Gwenga, you said something yesterday I want you to confirm. If I live in the UK, for instance, and I've been burnt with real estate in Nigeria, can I call up Q Shelter and say, get me real estate, I pay for it, and I say, you know what, I don't want to come home now. I want to use it for XYZ. Would you help me manage it and also give me my money cash when I come back, or send my money cash to me?
Yes, we will do that. I'll be glad to do that for every Nigerian that in diaspora. What we do, like I said, basically is that tell us the location and tell us your budget. Once you give us those two information, we aggregate properties in those locations within your budget in a property album, well taken. We send it to you. You see everything. If you want us to do video, we can do the video and send it to you. If you have somebody in Nigeria, probably that will conduct inspection for you, the person can approach us. We conduct the inspection. And after we have done the inspection, we get the owner of the property to issue an offer letter to be sure that the property is available for sale. After collecting the offer for the property, we request for the title documents, and we go and do the due diligence on it, the survey and the title document. If everything is okay, then we ask you to inflow your money through the normal means. It goes through the financial system. Payment is made to the property owner, and after that is done, if you want to let it out or whatever thing was your investment decision for doing it, we get professionals to do all those things for you. Then finally, we ensure your title is properly registered at land, and we DHL the property to you in the comfort of your home, anywhere you are in the world.
Okay. As we start to wrap up, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that. Also, on the app, if I have a property, can I list the property on your app, on your engine, so that the world can see it?
You can list your property on our app. The only difference is that when you are, if you are a homeowner or a developer, there's a back-end due diligence we are going to do. Once you send the property to us, through our app. At the back end, we carry out the due diligence before the property is uploaded. And that is one of our core value, credibility, to ensure that the person that has sent the property is truly the owner of the property.
Okay. I'd like to say thank you to you both. And we've had a lot of questions and we've been able to take our time to go through most of the questions asked. And it's been a very fulfilling afternoon. And as we start to wrap up, is there any additional information you'd like to give, Mr. Gbenga, first, and afterwards, Mr. Coley, you talk to us. And then please do not forget that we'll send you that questionnaire, to be able to fill out your details for, so that you will see the property that fits you. And also you can go to check the website or download the Q Shelter app as we wrap up.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all the participants that have taken time to listen to us at Q Shelter. I also want to thank our moderator, Mr. Rufai Hosseini, for the time. The only thing I want to say is that the future of Q Shelter is very bright, and we are going to get to a situation at Q Shelter where we display on a daily basis rates in the market, and we display on the closing cost of transaction, where we have our professionals, lawyers that have been pre-qualified to choose and quote for the closing cost of every transaction. And the customer will go with the best closing cost, so that at the end of the day, he gets the best value for his transaction. So the future is very bright at Q Shelter. I want to ensure that once somebody has applied through Q Shelter and everything is okay from the point of pre-approval for the transaction, we want to ensure that in 15 days, the transaction is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okoli. Is a wrap up?
Wrapping up, thank you, Rufai, again for this opportunity. And thank you for our guests who have patiently waited this period. Q Shelter is coming with something different. Q Shelter is all about disrupting, let me use that phrase, the real estate space, with the whole notion of bringing affordability to the market in terms of services. We want to let you know that as we proceed, some older ideas will begin to emanate from the Q Shelter stable, which we would gradually inform the market about. Well, thank you for your time. Come Q Shelter, come to Q Shelter, think Q Shelter. We're just here to render services and hold you by hand through all the rigors of the real estate ecosystem. Thank you again for your time.
All right, thank you all. I'd like to say thank you all on behalf of Q Shelter, and thank you so much for waiting to the very end. In fact, we had, to show you the importance, across close to about an hour, we had over 80% of retainership as regards the audience base, because it's really been a very, very engaging conversation. Thank you all for your time, and go out there and visit all the outlets as regards, the ones we've shared with Q Shelter. And thank you so much, for joining the conversation. And hopefully by the next time we have another webinar like this, all of you here will be homeowners. And we're looking forward to that. And it will be great that has been found by Q Shelter. Let me let you enjoy the rest of your Friday, as a lot of you go back to work or go about your endeavors. For our Muslim brothers out there, Barakat Jimma, thank you so much for your time. Bless you all.